The Utah Jazz rookies dominated their higher draft picks against Washington last night. Does that mean the Jazz got the steals of the draft? It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. We are also available on YouTube, and on demand on Amazon Fire TV for you as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. I do greatly appreciate it. To the everydayers out there, you are the greatest. You make this show what it is. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Here's the plan today. At the end of the show, I want to revisit yesterday's numbers show, put some of that in context a little bit, look at where the other young players in the league are, talk about Cody Williams a little bit on that because some of those numbers were really ugly and what to expect him after he had a pretty decent night last night. We'll look at what it means that Kyle Filipowski was better than Alex Saar last night and Isaiah Collier was better than Bub Carrington. Let's start there, though. Last night, Kyle Filipowski was the better of the two centers. Alex Saar is the number 2 pick of the NBA draft. And last night, without question, Kyle Filipowski showed more offensive skill, showed more range shooting, showed more ability to put the ball on the floor and stay balanced, saw better touch around the rim in what he was finishing, saw better passing skills, though he had finished without an assist last night, and Saar had 4, so I'd say that was actually more even. We just know that. And showed, I thought, a better all-around offensive NBA game across the board. Filipowski was the 32nd pick. Alex Saar was the first pick. Long-term play on this, who knows? But last night, Filipowski was better than Alex Saar. Maybe not that stunning. Alex Saar, in his rookie year so far this year, is shooting 39.6% for the field and 31% from three and 63% for the free throw line at 7-1, only going to the free throw line twice a game, only getting 6 rebounds a game, only scoring 12 points. Filipowski, as his time has increased recently, is doing all of those things across the board. Kyle Filipowski, if we kind of look at his various splits, it's hard, he's not getting the start that you're seeing out of Alex Saar on a nightly basis. But if you look at the month of February, Filipowski averaged 10 points and 6 rebounds. In 3 games in the month of March, he's averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists a game. The most exciting and just truly incredible part of Kyle Filipowski right now is his shooting. Since February 1st, his three-point shooting has been incredible, particularly considering he opened the year hitting 7 of his first 31 above the break threes for 28%. He went 0 for 4 on February 1st, and on February 3rd, he turned the corner. In the last 16 games, Kyle Filipowski is shooting 51% from three-point range on 3 attempts a game. Since February 1st, Filipowski is averaging 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists in 21 minutes a night, shooting 55% for the field and 51% from 3. He outplayed Alex Saar last night. Clearly, Saar actually had a better game than I've watched. When I've watched him, he's a terrible rim finisher, terrible inside scorer, actually kind of disturbingly bad, actually at times, on where his shooting and what he's able to do, his various shooting areas on the floor. His lack of touch would concern me a little bit. And this was the number 2 pick of the draft. Filipowski showing all the opposite skills. Looking at Alex Saar on the year and his shooting accuracy, he shoots 69% of the rim and 26% on short mid-range shots. Flip that around to what Kyle's doing. And Kyle, one of the concerns on him coming in was that he would not be able to finish at the rim. He's been shooting 66% of the rim and 53%, 42 of 79 on the short mid-range, so far superior. And last night, Filipowski was the better player of those two. Isaiah Collier was better than Bub Carrington. Bub Carrington was the 14th pick of the draft. Isaiah Collier was the 29th pick of the draft. Collier slides down. And yet, who's better on last night? Isaiah Collier or Bub Carrington? And there's no question Isaiah Collier had the game in control last night. Collier, I thought, was much more impactful. I was surprised how little impact Carrington had on the game, where he could get to on the floor. So far this year, if you look at their numbers with EPM, like we looked at last night, it would say that Carrington's been a better player, but both of them are playing about 30 minutes a night. Collier's actually a little bit older, almost a year older than Carrington. Carrington shoots the three at 35% and Collier's at 30%. So that's clear. Carrington's a much better free throw shooter. All indicators still show that Bub Carrington, who was picked 14th in the draft, will be a better player, doesn't turn it over as much overall. But last night, I didn't think they looked comparable. In fact, I thought this was a whitewash. And maybe it's hometown Google eyes or something, but I didn't think this was close last night. The force that Isaiah Collier played with last night compared to Bub Carrington, I thought was really demonstrably different. Now, Carrington had 9 assists. He had 5 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. He had 2 steals. He was certainly box score filling and was actively involved and wasn't playing. Neither of them were playing with very high-level teammates last night. But Collier going to line 9 times. Collier's pace that he played with last night. Collier's ability to get on the cup last night, I thought was elite. And he continues to show that. And Bub Carrington, who in many people's mind was the one who was going to be the rookie of the year, when he ended up in Washington, everyone suddenly thought he was the in vogue rookie of the year pick. But when Collier's getting, and maybe this is a little misleading because Collier doesn't like to take outside shots, but Collier's getting to the rim for 32% of his shots and finishing at 65%. So that's pretty darn good. Carrington, on the other hand, is getting to the rim only for 15% of his shots. And that was obvious to me last night. He just can't get on the cup the same way, and he's only finishing at 52%. So a little misleading because Carrington's much more willing to take the three than Isaiah is because Isaiah's not a good shooter. But the contrast of 32% of your shots from at the rim compared to 15 shows that Collier has an elite skill of getting on the cup that I didn't see out of Carrington that would concern me a little bit if I was the Wizards. And then his inability to finish at the rim. There did not seem to be a level of athleticism from Bub Carrington last night that matched the athleticism that you saw from Isaiah Collier. I didn't actually think that Alex Saar, who has really good footwork and is really long at 7'1", looked like he had both he and Kyle Filipowski in that matchup were disastrous defensively at times. Collier in the matchup between Filipowski and Saar, the first quarter, I thought Alex Saar was going to score 50 points. He went at Kyle Filipowski. Filipowski couldn't stay with him. Then in the second quarter, the Jazz opened up the floor, created some space, and Kyle Filipowski just suddenly started torching Alex Saar. And then both of them, kind of as young players do, went dead quiet in the third and fourth quarters, not making a lot of plays after that, which is probably the essence of it. Teams, I'm sure, changed. Defenses changed. Ron Boone pointed out to me during one of the commercial breaks, and I asked why. He's like, well, teammates can change too. They can decide you're not getting as many shots. That does happen in this league. So I think that in all basketball, not just the NBA, I thought that in that matchup, both those players, Filipowski and Saar, did not show any ability to defend at all. And so I thought Filipowski showed more offensive elite skill than Saar did and more athleticism around his offense, actually. Kyle had an drive with a real burst and explosion last night I hadn't seen in a while, or seen at all, frankly. And Collier, I thought, was way more dynamic than Bub Carrington. So Jazz 2 rookies last night dominated the top picks in Washington. Now, ironically enough, Keyshawn George, who was the 24th pick, if you want to look at it that way, dominated the 10th pick in Cody Williams. And we'll talk about Cody before the show is over. But what does this mean? So last night, Collier, Filipowski were better than Carrington and Saar. What does it mean? Did the Jazz really get steals? Is this a long-term thing for success comparing to the same players? We'll look at that when we continue next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, performance enhancement for the mind and the brain. Convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Who is your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know they're asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. Learning to ask for help, if you've seen firsthand how valuable it is to get a support system for others, the same can be for you to get you grounded and motivated. Everyday benefits. Therapy isn't about crisis moments. It's about the tool for self-improvement, stress management, and navigating life's challenges. I was doing yoga today, and they had a great story I'll share with you, and that was that there's three things you can be. This is going to get a little deep here. Three things you can be. You're standing outside. If there's outside of a lake and there's a rock in the middle of the lake that is coming out through the water, you can either be the kind of person who hits the water and creates the chaos around and gets caught in it all the time. Second, you can be like the leaf that when the chaos comes, you get thrown around in all of the chaos, moved in the water. Or third, you can be the rock. And all this goes on around you, but because you're grounded and you're set, you're still staying in your place and you seem unbothered by it. That's what therapy can do for you. Build your support system with BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Today, 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street. Also located in Logan and in Linden. The Murdoch lineup of cars, absolutely outstanding. Gotta love the new Santa Fe with its style and look. The Palisade is the king. It's just absolutely fabulous. Have been driving both those cars recently and loving both of them. You also have the Kona and the Tucson in the SUV lineup. The Sonata and the Lantras are the sedans that have made all sorts of awards, and the Ioniq 5 and 6 have won the electric car awards. You can get the Hyundai cars, all the best. All the whistles for the best price. Murdoch's making sure you get the no regret experience, and we're here to give you the VIP treatment. So make sure you email me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so I can set you up with a VIP meeting at any of the three locations for Murdoch Hyundai in Linden, Logan, or at 4646 South State Street. Email me at dlock09@gmail.com to get you the VIP experience. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Have you signed up for the daily newsletter? It's the ultimate one-stop NBA newsletter. Not only get your latest on the Jazz, the NBA with Katie Heindel and Mike Schreier. Mike Schreier writing today is a Thursday. And the fantasy with Josh Lloyd will leak you the most important articles, whether they're locked on or not, around the NBA, giving you the one-stop. So what does it mean that Isaiah Collier outplayed Bub Carrington and that Kyle Filipowski outplayed Alex Saar? Well, first thing is it's good because that's who you compare him with. Second thing, it might not be that good. So it's early still, but this draft class was kind of known as a not particularly good draft class. There's a chance that Alex Saar and Bub Carrington aren't good. And so that outplaying them doesn't matter as much as some other draft classes. It's not like outplaying Brandon Miller and Victor Wembanyama from a year ago. It's not like outplaying Paulo Banchero and someone else. There's a chance. This was not a top-heavy draft. This was a particularly flat draft. There is a chance the Jazz got better players at 29 and 32 than the Washington got 2 and 14 because of the way this draft was. Both of these teams, Washington and Utah, are playing their youngsters beyond the minutes they deserve. Like if they were on a 500 team, none of these guys are getting 30 minutes a night. If they were on a 50-win team, none of these guys are playing. Collier couldn't play on a 52-win team as good as he is because he can't shoot. Kyle couldn't play because his defense isn't up to par. Saar couldn't play because he couldn't finish, and Carrington just isn't good enough. They wouldn't play on a 55-win team. Put them on the Clippers. I don't think they play. Put them on the Rockets. I'm not sure they play. Reed Shepherd barely plays. He played the other night, and Shea put 50 on him. So it can be really misleading right now on how good these guys really are. Kyle Filipowski outplaying Alex Saar, quite honestly, might be a bigger red flag to Washington than it is a green flag to the Utah Jazz. Isaiah Collier's athleticism being so superior to Bub Carrington might have been a bigger red flag to Washington than a green flag for Utah. Because quite honestly, both Filipowski and Collier, and they're not going to solve this year, have issues that are significant enough that they're going to have to really develop them and fix them. It's hard to find players as good as Isaiah Collier is passing, as good as Isaiah Collier is driving, as fast as he is and unbelievable, who don't shoot it well, that have starting or even regular rotation minute NBA point guard careers. Like it's pretty uncommon. Now, he's on the low end right now. He's sub 30% from three-point range. Collier is. That's probably not where he's going to finish. But, I mean, he's 23% from three. We can go run a basketball reference stat head search of guards who have shot below 30% from three in an NBA season and then tried to look and see how many of them have long careers. It's not a lot. Kyle Filipowski is terrific offensively and showing it day in and day out just how skilled he is offensively. It's really awesome. And the three-point shooting, he shoots this level from three-point range, and guess what? It's going to be all right for him. He'll figure it out. But the defense is really not great. And Alex Saar kind of had his way with him for a little while last night and then disappeared. But Alex Saar might not, I don't think Alex Saar has had his way with anyone all season long. So in some ways, we still got a long way to go on all of this. It's pretty great last night that those guys outplayed them. That's pretty great. Okay? Because it shows that in the draft, the Jazz got two players who have a skill set that is superior to some of the top better picks of the draft and who were able to and are able to display it. Now, for each of their individual careers, still got a long way to go. Still got a long way to go. But it's like, hey, that's all you could do last night. Right? That's all you could do last night. It's interesting. I just did a search while I was chatting right there for 20 minutes a game, 40 games a year, single season, 3-point. Oh, I know. I understand what I did wrong. Okay. I was like, how could that possibly be that I did that? That's what came out. It came out with no players. And I was like, no, there are players that have done what I was searching for to show you guys. Nonetheless, I'm not sure that I'll take the next step and say, Collier and Filipowski made it because they dominated those picks. But they did dominate those picks, and that's pretty great. But I don't think it eliminates the issue that both of them have for long-term of whether or not they're viable rotation players. And that's part of the process of being 19 and 20 years old. And I do think there's a chance, having watched last night, that Bub Carrington, I was surprised. I've watched actually a decent amount of Washington recently because I was prepping for this game, and you haven't seen Washington all year, and frankly, it got me a little nervous about whether or not I knew their players, and so I go and watch their games. And I've been a little surprised that Bub Carrington, the lack of impact that Bub Carrington was making on games for someone who's playing as many minutes as he is. There's not an explosion and a burst to the basket that Collier has. That's elite NBA skill. Filipowski's passing right now is shooting. His rebounding, elite NBA skills. Like, those are skills. So they showed him. That's great. But I'm not sure it means success. Let's put yesterday's numbers in context. And what about the fact that Cody Williams got outplayed by Keyshawn George, if we're going to be totally fair in this conversation? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel gives you the opportunity to win $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet right now. That's right. New FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip or you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. The betting feature keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether you're backing your team late game or picking a player to hit a clutch three. Never feel like you've missed a chance. Plus, the app's easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So, right now, FanDuel customers, again, $150 in bonus bets if you first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. I want to just share a cool story with you as a Locked On Jazz listener, because I really feel like I have two things, actually. I really feel like you built Locked On. Like, you were a part of this. We built it together. We tried stuff on this show. You guys dealt with all my attempts, my failures, my attempts, this and that. And we built this network together. So it was cool. I was wearing this hat today, and I went out to a coffee shop here in D.C., and it actually was one of those Capital One coffee shops that I'd never done, but frankly, they had Verve coffee, which I like, and they had my yogurt, which I needed because I eat granola. And I travel with granola. Oh, it's not showing up there. I travel with my granola, and I have my yogurt. So they had what I needed. So I stopped, and the guy came over because he's a Capital One salesman, and I was wearing a Locked On hat, and he's like, "Locked On, is that like the podcast network?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my gosh, I listen to Locked On Red Sox and Locked On Browns all the time." And I just thought those are cool moments to me. Like, we're 7 years old and we're the largest sports podcast network in the country at this point. So maybe I shouldn't be thinking they're as cool, but they're still cool moments. And I wanted to share with you because it actually should be a cool moment for you too. Because if you've been with us every day for the last 10, 12 years that we've been doing this podcast, in the last 7, 8 years we've been building the network, you've had a major contribution to it as well. So I just wanted to kind of give you the tip of the hat of that one. The other one is I was walking around Georgetown here in D.C. yesterday, and I was just thinking about how awesome it is that you're still listening. I really do. Like, not that I think it's a tough year, and the fact that you're sticking with us and listening to the show every day and sticking with me personally, and that I'm still part of your life, I think it's awesome. I think it's really, really great. And I'm really thankful for that. I'll probably do that earlier in the show tomorrow, just to point that to people. It's a Friday edition tomorrow, so we'll do some Ask LOJs. All right, Cody Williams got outplayed by Keyshawn George. If we want to do this comparison, just as much. I thought Cody actually had a good game, but nothing near the way. And the difference is that Keyshawn George runs around the floor at 6'8" and looks like an NBA player. He's in control. He knows what's going on. And Cody just looks so small. He's just so skinny and so small. He just doesn't play with a lot of force. And frankly, at Cody Williams, at this point, we've got to bank on that as he gets stronger, he'll get more aggressive. And when he gets more aggressive, he'll play with more force, and then his skills will come out. That's what you're banking on at this point with Cody Williams. That the physical, some sort of physical transformation will go on that will ignite his confidence and ignite his ability to play harder and with more force. Because right now, he's not strong enough and he doesn't play hard enough. He doesn't play hard enough implies he's being lazy. I mean, he just doesn't play with a force. There's no force to him on the game. Every time he drives, he's dislodged from his route. Every time he's drive, he's trying to figure out if he can get a foul call. He's not going to get him because he's not strong enough to earn him. Every time he drives, the shot is becoming discombobulated off his route. He's so far behind. In fact, if we go to yesterday's numbers again and try to put them in context a little bit better than I did yesterday. Cody, of those players, let's look at players that are 22 and younger in the NBA. And if you look at their estimated plus minus, I talked about all the Jazz players were negative yesterday. There's actually only 6. This is how much young players struggle. There's only 7 players in the NBA that are 22 or younger that have a positive estimated plus minus. Victor Wembanyama, Derek Lively, Dyson Daniels, they all do it defensively. I mean, Victor and Lively are positive offensively, but they're really. Jalen Williams, the second-round draft pick from Memphis this year. Jalen Duren, who's still only 21, his third year, maybe even third year. And Cason Wallace and Stephon Castle. Those are the only ones. The only ones that are offensively positive are Victor Wembanyama, Derek Lively, Jalen Williams, Jalen Duren, Shaedon Sharpe, who's in his third year, but he's still 21, Stephon Castle, Keontae George, and Jared McCain. So if players 22 and below, Keontae George is the 7th best offensive player. Now that puts in a little better perspective. Defensive players that are actually positive are 22 and younger. Victor, Dyson Daniels, Derek Lively, Cason Wallace, Jeremy Sohan, Jordan Walsh, who doesn't play much, Anthony Black, Ron Holland, Stephon Castle, Nikola Jovic, and that's it. That's estimated. That's projection. If you look at overall EPM, Cody Williams has the worst estimated plus minus of any player in the NBA 22 or younger at minus 5.5. Might be the worst in the NBA. So it's he needs time. He needs time on the floor, but he needs a body transformation that will allow him to be able to use his skills. Defensively, by the way, to the point of yesterday's show, and I don't know about this. The one thing I don't know about these stats is whether or not if a team's bad defensively can separate. But 22 and younger, for what we talked about yesterday, Keontae's the worst defensive player. Bryce is the second worst. Filipowski's the 5th worst, and Cody's the 6th worst. Now, is that because the whole team's bad and Isaiah's about the 12th worst? Or is the whole team bad because of that? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question. So, just to put yesterday in a little bit more context. And understanding yesterday's stats, that there just aren't a lot of players 22 and younger that are particularly good. Our young players happen to be particularly bad defensively. Keontae's much better offensively than we would have thought. Trying to put those. What I don't have from Taylor Snar is the database of like the last 25 years to know if a player's estimated plus minus is below 4 in their first 2 years in the league. That's Cody Williams, Adam Bona, Ryan Rupart, Kendall Brown, Nick Smith Jr., Jalen Hood-Shafina, Ultrich Kopchi, Tajon Salon, Malik Branham right now, that there's a 0% chance they make it in the NBA. Or that there's a 10% chance they make it in the NBA. Or of the 50 players that have numbers that low, 2 of them have made it in the NBA. There's a 4% chance. I don't know that number. That would be a number that would be helpful to put in context of what we have. I will try to see if I can figure out a way to do that. Some downloading. We'll see. All right. That is Locked On Jazz today from the nation's capital. We'll come to you tomorrow on an Ask LOJ. It is Friday tomorrow, right? Friday edition from Toronto. Thanks so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. To the everydayers out there, you're the best. Sign up for the newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Follow me on all my socials at DLock09. If you haven't already subscribed for the program, please do. And 5-star reviews are much appreciated. You're the best. Thank you so much for staying with us. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA. Or if you're listening on audio, go to Locked On NBA and get game night every game, every night.